Amen. All right, I would like for you to take just a few moments, and if you're in a place where you can do so safely, shut your eyes. All right, what is it that you hear around you in the space that you're in? Go ahead and listen. Do you hear different sounds? Try and focus on one of those sounds. Bring your attention to one particular sound. Do you notice if you can hear it perhaps more clearly? Or if some of the other sounds around you seem to fade into the background as you focus on that sound? You can keep your eyes closed if you would like to, or you can open them back up. Thanks for engaging in this short exercise of hearing with me this morning. Hearing is a fundamentally biological experience. All of these different sounds that we hear around us, the sounds that you heard in your own space this morning, all come to us as sound waves. They hit our ear, and those waves create vibrations that travel through our ear, get converted into electrical signals that are then taken into our brains, which then process them, assigning to them concepts and words, helping us to identify these particular sounds, helping us to know from what direction they come from, how loud or how soft they are as an indication of how close or how far away they may be from us. It's truly an amazing process that happens in our own bodies as we hear sounds around us. And the thing is, we are always hearing. We're always receiving sound waves from our environment that our brain is processing and turning into vital information for how we navigate and understand our environments. Listening, however, is a different and a deeper experience than hearing. Because when we listen to something, we bring our attention and our focus to the sounds and the voices that we hear. Now, in my household, it's not an uncommon experience for me to be sitting somewhere reading a book, absorbed in the words on the page and the rustling sound that it makes as I keep turning the pages, to realize that Ryan has been speaking to me and trying to get my attention for a few minutes. I just wasn't listening to him, even though I was hearing those sounds. You see, hearing can be a very passive thing that we do, but listening is always an active process, requiring our attention and our presence. And the presence that we bring when we listen to what we hear changes the experience. We can hear things differently. We can begin to see how they might resonate with our own experiences and understandings. And when we bring who we are and listen to people, to others in front of us or around us, we can find common threads and experiences that connect what we hear into a larger story. Now, as disciples of Jesus, we are seeking to grow in our understanding and experience of the larger story of God's love and grace. The way that this story not only can shape and transform our own lives, but also the lives of our community and the world around us. And listening is one of the core elements of what it means to be a disciple. We listen for God so we can not only continue to grow in our own faith and understanding and way that we live our lives, but we listen for God because we are also sent by Jesus on a mission of healing and sharing the good news. So in these teachings of Jesus that we are looking at this morning, the challenge that he poses is this: who are we listening to? And are we listening to all the voices, the stories, the hopes, and the experiences around us? We live in a culture where it is very easy to curate exactly what it is that we listen to. We can create playlists of any kind of music. We can curate watch lists and choose from a variety of different streaming services to tailor exactly what it is that we watch or listen to. We can tailor our social media feed so it's only bringing us the voices and the perspectives of people that we seek out or want to hear. We can choose our news outlets, and we can with ease make it so that we only ever hear the stories, opinions, and experiences of those who are similar to us. Now, we may not ever do this intentionally. Some of this just happens slowly and over time, but we can wind up only listening to ourselves. But as Jesus counsels his disciples, disciples are not greater than their teachers. And Jesus, our teacher, humbled himself in his ministry to listen and bring himself to be present to the myriad of voices and people he met in his journeys. Everyone has the potential to be both disciple and teacher. We all have something to offer. We all have something to share, and we all have a unique experience of the world and of God. Listening to these teachers, to those who are different from us, who have different hopes and dreams and perspectives and experiences, takes humility, and it also takes presence. We may not agree with what we are hearing, but we can always listen for empathy. We can listen for understanding, and we can listen to hear where God may be present. This is to say, as Jesus says, what I say to you in the dark, tell in the light. And what you hear whispered, proclaim from the housetops. God sometimes speaks to our ears in unlikely places and through unexpected people. And if we dismiss them or hear but not listen to them, we may miss a God moment. We must be listening to the world and to the people around us, to hear all the people, especially in our communities and beyond the bounds of our church community. Now, this isn't to say that everything we will hear will be good. But in the midst of all the sounds and voices around us, there is good being spoken. And we are called not just to hear, but to listen and to discern. Take, for instance, movies and music. What songs and movies, even if they aren't considered Christian, speak to the grace and love that we see revealed in God? Where might we hear stories of redemption and resurrection and hope? And if we listen to what is popular today or what our neighbors are talking about, what longings and hopes might we hear expressed through music and movies? Or take, for instance, people rising up in our communities and around the world to call for justice and change and for fair and equal treatment. What cries for justice is God asking for us to not only hear, but to bring out into the light? As we continue to reckon with systemic racism in our country, many people have been recommending and sharing books, podcasts, and articles by people of color. These are voices and experiences and stories that have not often been centralized in our curriculums and recommended reading lists. So what voices do we not only need to hear, but to amplify and give room to speak in all of our communities and places that we participate in? Or take, for instance, your community. As you sit outside to dine, as you walk through your streets, as you stand in line at the store, as you talk with coworkers and parents and more, what are the hopes and the stories you hear? What are people proud of in their community? What do they wish was different about the community or the place that they lived in? What change do they long to see in the world? we can discover God at work, not just in our church, but in our community by listening to these stories and longings and hopes that people are sharing and speaking all around us. This kind of deep listening is an important starting place if we seek as disciples to meaningfully speak and connect with the values and hopes and dreams of all the people within our communities. And the good news of Jesus Christ has something to say and some place to connect with what people are sharing. When we begin to listen in this way, to not only hear the people around us, but to be present to what it is that we are hearing, we can find new life, as Jesus says. All of this, as of all of the work of the Spirit, takes time, because we have to grow our way into this kind of living and being in the world. So today, let us begin by reflecting on whose voices we are hearing and asking the Spirit to open our ears to the voices striving to be heard, to the truth that God is sending to us, sometimes through unlikely sources. May we listen to find sympathy. May we listen to find empathy and to discover the common threads that connect all of us into God's larger story of wholeness and redemption. Amen. Amen.